Welcome to Legal Nurse Podcast. I'm Pat Iyer. This is a podcast that has been sharing content with you, tips, strategies to help you in your business, which I started in September of 2016. We are now in our 9th year, and we love sharing information with you to help you in your practice. Mark your calendars. Our next online conference is taking place February 27, 28, and March 1 of 2025. We have our act together. We've got this conference planned for you and available for you to reserve your seat at the lowest rate by going to lnc.tips/February 2025 virtual. That link again is lnc.tips/February 2025 virtual. There's no spaces in that link at all, particularly between the February and the virtual. lnc.tips/February 2025 virtual. We'd love to have you join us at that conference and get the benefit of the expertise of our speakers and our topics, all designed to give you the knowledge, the support, and the networking that you need as a legal nurse consultant. And now, let's get on to the show. Welcome to this program. My name is Pat Iyer. This is one of my favorite topics, and that is the use of AI to help expand your capability to produce meaningful content that will appeal to the attorneys who you want to attract. That's the overall framework by which we're talking about this. So before I begin, let me give Barbara Levin a chance to introduce me.
We're excited to welcome all of you today. I'd like to introduce Pat Iyer, who, as you know, is very masterful and very knowledgeable and truly a national icon when it comes to legal nurse consulting. She has her master's in nursing and she has her LNCC and has established a very highly successful independent legal nurse consulting business in Flemington, New Jersey, back in 1989. She testified as an expert witness for 25 years as a liability expert for medical surgical cases. After growing her multi-million-dollar company, she sold this company and is now a very successful business coach for her membership programs. She provides books and courses and online training to help legal nurses just like you make more money. And she wants to help you avoid those expensive mistakes in your business. She served as the national president of the American Association of Legal Nurse Consultants and also served on its board for 5 years. Truly, we welcome you here today. Pat, as you know, as many of you know, and for those of you, this is your first time meeting her, she is the go-to person when it comes to starting a business, advancing your practice, building your dreams, and exploring your vision, as well as much more. So you're going to hear from her about one of her favorite topics. Stay tuned, have your pen ready and your paper to take some great notes.
Thank you, Barbara. And we appreciate you spending this time with us to go through what is a rapidly evolving and changing landscape with us. This has revolutionized our world in so many ways, this being AI. We know that attorneys are interested in getting valuable content from medical people. We know that they are juggling caseloads. They are handling complex medical issues. There's much that they don't understand. And they turn to legal nurse consultants and other experts to help understand those medical issues. I began using ChatGPT about a month or so after it came out, which was approximately 2 years ago this month. I believe it was end of October, early November, that ChatGPT came on the market. And if you can remember some of those early controversies, they were Should students be using ChatGPT to do research for their schoolwork? Should they be using it to write papers? Was it cheating if they used it? Schools were in an uproar. Some schools still are in an uproar on those issues. And I don't think we ever envisioned back 2 years ago the ways that AI would start cropping up in our software, in our discussions, in our medical decision making, in our graphics capabilities. I don't think that we envisioned the jobs that would be changed or eliminated because of AI being able to provide a service faster, more efficiently, perhaps more accurately. There's been a lot of changes. And we're going to start with ChatGPT because that's where it all began. Before I do that, I want to give you the overview of what we're going to focus on with ChatGPT. We're going to focus on how you can use it to brainstorm some ideas, to do some research on what your ideal client is interested in. And by ideal client, whenever I use those terms, I mean the attorney you want to attract to work with you. You're a legal nurse consultant. I'm making an assumption that you want to work with attorneys. I'm also making an assumption that most of you are independently employed as legal nurse consultants and not working already within a law firm or a governmental agency. Or you may be in the beginning stages of your business, or you could be several years into the business and curious about what does AI have to offer me? And we'll talk about how you can refine the output that you get from AI, as well as how you can improve your productivity. And we're also in this program going to spend a little bit of time on visuals. The two primary tools for text-based work are ChatGPT and Perplexity. There are others, but those are the two that we're going to focus on today. And two graphics-based programs, which are Ideogram and Canva Dreamlab. So first of all, let me move to ChatGPT. The use of ChatGPT for generating content. This is my account. It's got my initials up here, PA, for PA, as in Pat. And on the left-hand side is the working menu for ChatGPT. This is the margin where it keeps track of the searches that you have done so that you can get a sense of, if I wanted to go back and look at something that I've created in the past, you can click on it and it keeps this running history. There are various versions of ChatGPT. The 4.0 or 4.0 is the most current. There are prior versions and they keep upgrading all the time. I have a paid version at $20 a month. I found fairly early on, maybe about 6 months into this, that if I had the free version, I spent a lot of time waiting. So I accepted that I needed to get the paid version, and that's what you're seeing now. There are some other versions that are being rolled out. We're going to be using 4.0. So what I'm doing, very likely you're going to be able to do on a free version if that's what you're using. It may be that I get my answers just a few seconds faster because I'm not in the free line. I'm in the paid line. My goal is to do some research about my ideal client. And I'm going to show you a prompt, and I would like you, after you see my prompt, to start thinking about how you can take this prompt and modify it for your ideal client. And then we're going to do some further demonstration with your versions of your ideal client. I'm just copying this from a monitor that is over my head. So if you are seeing my face and I'm looking up, it's because I'm looking at the monitor. ChatGPT is very familiar with me by now. When I sign in, they know that I'm a legal nurse consultant. They know, or it knows, that I market to attorneys. It knows that I also work with legal nurse consultants. So I don't have to do a lot of introduction because ChatGPT understands who I am. I'm going to be, for the sake of this prompt, suggesting that I'm marketing to attorneys who handle personal injury cases involving slips and falls. Now, that's pretty specific. If I said personal injury attorneys, I would get a broader answer. I want to know the major challenges that these attorneys have when it comes to medical issues. Again, I've been specific here. I don't say major challenges because their challenges could be they want to make partner, and that has nothing to do with a medical issue that I want to help them with. So I say major challenges when it comes to medical issues. And this little nuance, before you give me the output, what additional information would you like from me in order to improve that output? This is a new refinement on a way to modify a prompt so that you get something very specific. And let's see what it's going to ask me. All right, and you know that it's finished when the words on the left-hand column start scrolling over. Here's what it's asking me: specific aspects of slip and fall cases, types of injuries that I want to focus on. Are the attorneys primarily defense or plaintiff oriented? Are there specific challenges they encounter with medical records or injury assessments and knowing the baseline medical knowledge of these attorneys? All right, let's see. Let's answer this. I want to focus on spinal injuries handled by plaintiff attorneys. By the way, ChatGPT is pretty good about misspellings, but I compulsively change words that I spell incorrectly. They are unfamiliar with medical records and have little knowledge about injuries. And now with that information, you can see that the answer is updated. ChatGPT is suggesting to me some topics, some challenges that they face. All right, I like these answers. Let's pit the third choice. Is differentiating acute versus degenerative injuries. This is one that might come up. Chronic degenerative changes versus recent traumatic spine injuries. For topic number 3 above, please suggest 5 ideas for LinkedIn posts on that topic. An educational post: why the difference matters in slips and falls, explaining the importance of these injuries, insights, a call to action, an infographic post highlighting primary indicators of acute versus chronic degeneration. Save this post for your next slip and fall case or a case study post. Share a case study. And here's a quick tip post and a myth busting post. So you can see that with just a little bit of information, ChatGPT has offered us some ideas for 5 different posts on this topic. And let's say pick topic number 5 above and expand it into a LinkedIn post. This is on the myth busting. And now we've got a nice little call to action here. If you're dealing with a slip and fall case involving spinal injury, need help, let's connect. If I wanted the answer to this post read out loud, I would click on this little symbol of a audio speaker and it would read it to me. The one that I use the most is the copy one. If I'm happy with this answer, I give it a thumbs up. If I'm unhappy, I give it a thumbs down. If I want it to redo it and try again, it will rewrite it for me. But it generally likes some kind of input, like what is the problem? Or I can change to a different version of ChatGPT by clicking on this down arrow. Was it helpful so far? Yes. Let's now copy it and we're going to take it into another platform. So before I do that, let me ask Barbara in the chat if there's anybody in the audience who would like to have me use ChatGPT to do research on their particular topic. And I'm going to save this output that we just got. So if you would like me to do a demo for your ideal client, please tell us in the chat, who is the type of attorney that you serve? And can you ask a specific question for that type of attorney? And I'll wait for a minute, give you a chance to react before moving on.
There isn't anything yet. I'm just waiting to see if somebody will write in. Oh, okay. Dan Brevard wrote medical malpractice defense attorneys. And then Donna Roberts wrote, this research is very specific to a case that I'm looking at now.
All right. Who works with medical malpractice defense attorneys. All right, Dan, let's see what ChatGPT says about this population. Notice that I narrowed the question down a little bit to see what ChatGPT thinks about defense attorneys. Identifying the standard of care. What's reasonable care versus potential deviations? All right. Sorting through extensive documentation. We all know that in terms of the volume of medical records. Understanding complex terminology and procedures. The significance of specific procedures, medications, abbreviations, evaluating pre-existing conditions. That's a big issue to help determine the causation question. interpreting symptom progression and timelines, patient-provider communication. They may have difficulty piecing together notes on consent discussions, follow-ups, patient education. Documentation errors, big problem in medical records. In our medical records analysis book, volume 3, that's coming out next month, we have a chapter on the topic of if you didn't chart it, you didn't do it. Is that a myth? That was written by Dr. Marianne Cosby. Fascinating way she pulled apart the implications of that statement. We have medication administration details, preparing for expert witness testimony, and navigating electronic health record variability. What you could do, Dan, with these kinds of answers is follow the trail that we just went through. Take one of those topics and ask for ideas of topics that you could expand upon for LinkedIn. Now we're going to switch over to Perplexity. Perplexity is a free and paid program. It's, again, $20 a month. I have a free program in Perplexity. Perplexity is different from ChatGPT in that it has a much bigger focus on providing you with citations. One of the complaints about ChatGPT in the beginning was that it would make things up, and it still makes things up. Perplexity makes things up as well. Let me give you an example. I gave Perplexity and ChatGPT a prompt that said, please name 10 books written by nurses for attorneys. Both platforms gave me credit for books that I have no recollection of ever having written, and mixing authors with titles. So it was not accurate. Some of the books were accurate. Most of them were not. So be careful when you get that kind of information out of AI that you check to make sure that it's accurate. You can use Perplexity, just like you can ChatGPT, to do research about your ideal client, draft emails, summarize documents. You can ask it to rewrite content. You can ask it to help write you posts. Many of those writing things work out very well with AI. And what's different about Perplexity is that it has this thing called focus, where you can give it a specific request, but you're looking for a particular form of output. For example, the social focus tells you what are some trending topics that are occurring. The writing focus helps you with rewriting content to make it less AI sounding. There's also an academic focus. If you're looking specifically for published articles from respected journals, you can get into that academic part of the site. Solving math equations, another aspect. Personally, I have never used. I'd much rather use my calculator. And discovering videos is also possible. And you can do a search across the entire web for particular pieces of information. So, for example, if we are interested in what attorneys are talking about, let's check on the social focus. Who is marketing? Oh, let's make it medical malpractice plaintiff attorneys.
Pat, if you're looking for additional ideas, we do have a few additional ones from the attendees.
Okay. Tell me what they are particularly interested in right now regarding medical cases. This is now in the social focus, so this is going to search for what's appearing in social media right now that medical malpractice plaintiff attorneys are concerned about. They're particularly interested in these concerns: high value cases, catastrophic injuries, wrongful death, COVID-19 malpractice cases, telemedicine errors, concerns about misdiagnosis or inadequate care via telemedicine. Now, that would be a very interesting social media post. Systemic problems in healthcare, EHR errors, medication errors, and then the big three clinical areas that generate a lot of cases. You could pick, with this information and your ideal client, you could pick any of these areas and ask Perplexity for some help in writing some posts. What Perplexity also does that ChatGPT does not do is it expands and gives you some additional questions. And when you click on this one, biggest challenges, for example, it starts a new search, and you'll notice that it's giving some sources here. It also gives you sources with numbers. If you're not familiar with Reddit, that's a place that a lot of people go to chat about things and share their opinions freely. Before we continue, that's not necessarily a literature source, but a social media source. But sometimes you get law firm sources. Sometimes when I do searches on Perplexity, it gives me my own blogs back and cites them. And you can see by looking at the bottom of this that it will take you to the next place and the next place and the next place and give you more and more information. You can go back to the new thread and take the social out and do the writing focus if you wanted to take one of those topics and ask for help with a LinkedIn post. Now, the thing that we just got out of the myth versus the reality, the pre-existing spinal conditions. Please rewrite this to make it sound friendlier. And I'm just now copying and pasting what I got from ChatGPT and asking for some help with a rewrite. This is the writing focus. I don't know of anyone who calls their attorney clients legal eagles. I personally don't, but we've got, hey there, legal eagles. This would give you an opportunity to do some rewriting if you got this kind of output. Always, always take whatever you get from AI and put it into a softer, more human-like response. Going through this, I would definitely do some editing. I wouldn't necessarily say 3 cool ways to make pre-existing conditions work for you. I would make that sound more professional and look to see what I could get out of this response that will be usable. Now that I've looked at this and it says sound friendlier, I think what I'm going to do is to ask it to, for the above response, please make this sound professional. And I would imagine that the hey, they're legal eagles is going to disappear. It definitely has toned it down, you'll notice. You can add stories to this. You can add cases that you've worked on that are resolved with no identifying details. You could give examples of how these 3 strategies worked for an attorney that you're working with, and then modify that and with an appropriate visual, put it on LinkedIn. This would capture people's attention, especially since spinal injuries are big damages cases. Barbara, is there another suggestion? Let's just stay in Perplexity and do a little bit more research for a specific type of attorney.
Well, a topic was what attorney focuses on a traumatic brain injury. And then someone suggested a group of women attorneys, an education session that they can provide them. Denise Harvey, as a defense case expert witness, wanted to focus on misdiagnosis of a pulmonary embolism after an orthopedics procedure. And Linda Davis wanted to know about attorneys who litigate long-term care cases, specifically neglect, pressure injuries, and falls.
To long-term care attorneys who represent plaintiffs. Let's see, what are the medical topics? We'll modify that. And see what it says. Quality of care, patient safety, potential neglect. It's identifying, wow, quite a list. 20 different concerns of great interest to these attorneys. Topic 6 above. And write a LinkedIn post for this audience. People who wander and get into mischief, elopement is a huge issue in long-term care. Often those individuals don't survive the experience of getting outside the safety of the building. So those are often very difficult to defend cases. And you can see it's given you an outline of a LinkedIn post. It says, as attorneys, we play a vital role. I would change that because you're a legal nurse consultant. So you would say, as a legal nurse consultant, I assist attorneys in playing a vital role in holding facilities accountable. And then this one, and ask for some engagement. What challenges have you faced in wandering and elopement cases? We've just scratched the surface of using Perplexity. This is, again, the free version of Perplexity. Are there any questions in the chat on either ChatGPT or Perplexity before we move on and we look at a couple of graphic programs?
I'm watching the chat. I don't see anything yet. People could be typing.
Yes. So with Perplexity, remember that you can get more specific answers if you use the focus, whether it's writing, academic, social, ChatGPT is not as up to date as Perplexity. Perplexity's content is current. And one thing that I want to make sure that I show you about ChatGPT is that there's in this upper right-hand corner of your account, there's an opportunity to go into the settings. Let me go back and customize. I picked the wrong part here. When you customize ChatGPT, and this is in the handout that you will get, you have an opportunity to put in some words that you don't want it to use. These are more AI associated terms. You can put these in and say, don't use these. It's thought starters. Get out of my way here. And then when it's creating output for you, it will eliminate these words. And that's a one-time only thing. You put it in one time, you hit save, and it will not put these words into the responses. I have given you these words in the handout. All right, let's go on to ideogram.
There's no questions at this time.
Perfect. Ideogram is a universe that you can rather quickly get lost in. It is a free site, however, there is a paid model, and it is desperately trying to get you to upgrade. You'll notice here our slow queue is currently full. Please try again later or upgrade your plan. The upgrade is, I think, $9 a month, maybe $10 a month. And it is a text to image. So all of these images were created by people writing in instructions on what they wanted to see. You have the opportunity to take any of these images and modify them. Like, for example, if you like this particular image of the tropical scene, but you want the umbrellas to be blue, you can put that in the text-based instructions and it'll regenerate that image with blue umbrellas. I have to tell you that the people who are doing these drawings, in my worldview, are probably mostly men. Because, hang on one second. We have the most voluptuous women that I have ever encountered in my experience show up in these images, almost without fail. When you make your images, then they will appear in this timeline and other people can modify them. One of the things that ideogram does not do well is spelling. This one is an exception, but there are many images where the words are spelled incorrectly. The person who created this image put their prompt in here. This is all typed in by the individual who wanted this. YCW 3704. And then the magic prompt is what the program generated based on the person's instructions. It tells you the resolution, meaning 9:16, 9 across the top, 16 below, and when it was created. And that was just, just a few minutes ago today, it was created. When you look at your own program, then in your own profile, you can look at all of the pictures that you have created. We have just gone back to the homepage, and you'll notice that in the time that I was talking, there's a whole bunch more new images that other people have been working on. Some of these, quite honestly, give me nightmares because they're spooky, like this one with the eyeball and the brain with the holes in it. I don't care for at all. I don't care for many of these. However, I have found them to be quite useful for making more professional office type images. So here's our people with a tropical scene. All these images above this were generated in the last few minutes that we were talking.
Pat, we have a question.
Uh-huh.
The question is from Michael Sampson. Can you talk about trademark and copyright issues when using AI generated images? Are there implications when using for your own materials? Thank you.
You own the copyright for anything that you create through AI because it is a unique creation. And anyone who shares information like this on the platform understands that what they have created might be used or modified by somebody else. Let's see if we can get it to cooperate. I wanted to show you the aspect ratios on the right-hand side, the 9:16, 1:1 square, 16:19. If you wanted it to be private, you would have to pay for the plan. And you can, down here at the bottom of your screen, indicate the type of output you want. When you're on the free plan, you're using up credits and you get a certain number of credits per month. I typically use realistic, but you can use any of these outputs. And it says the slow queue is full, but I'm just curious. Nope, it's not going to allow me to generate. It really is full. So it's not going to cooperate. If the queue was working, then this generate button would be blue. If you're on the free plan, it takes a couple of minutes and it gives you 4 choices of images. If you're on the paid plan, it works faster and you can download in a JPEG or a PNG file. Let's leave ideogram behind since it's not going to allow me to do anything, and move over to Dreamlab. Canva has a free program and a paid program. You notice the patterns by now. Dreamlab allows you a certain number of images that you can work on if you're on the free plan. And the pro plan gives you many, many, many more images. I've just started playing with this. So these are some initial images that I have created. My prompt was to create an image of a worried looking woman who was very pregnant. And then I picked a different type of format. I can download these. I can edit these images. This is a woman who looks very, very worried. Notice that you can also do infographics, but there's a problem here, which is that it has a great deal of difficulty spelling. And as you look at this, you can say, I don't think I can use this at all. When I look at the ways that it just sort of turned into garbage words. And it's not possible to go in and edit this. This is this would require a lot of tedious work. I did an image of a little girl with red-brown hair holding onto a helium balloon. Let's see, who would like to have me create an image for you that you could potentially use in a blog post or a LinkedIn post? I'm going to ask for a volunteer, and I'll show you the difference between ideogram and Dreamlab when it comes to speed and output.
Dan Brevard said a male nurse working with medical records. Donna Roberts said slip and fall. And Krista Peterson said birth injury.
All right, let's see what we got there. Notice it's fast. It's giving me 4 choices. And we've got this person, pretty handsome looking man. It's a nice square image. And this person looks like the same person. Pretty realistic, background muted. We have this person, looks like a physician, possibly, or this person. Got a nice choice with some diversity and all with a nice muted background. A slip and fall. A man who is laying on the ground, which is covered by ice. Let's change the ratio and do this one. Well, okay. I did ask for laying on the ice. It's on the ice for sure. Maybe I should have been a little more specific. Maybe an icy sidewalk would have been better. Okay, well, definitely ice. I could go back and change that prompt, laying on an icy sidewalk. Icy sidewalk. He is wearing a pink jacket. Let's make him colorful here. And this time, we picked smart before, but we also have other opportunities, just like with ideogram, you can choose the different kind of output. You can choose what type of a design. Let's pick pop art. That's going to look a little bizarre, isn't it? I tend to use the realistic one because it appeals to me, but you could definitely, if you wanted the comic book type appearance, that's what I think of for these. It followed my instructions. This one looks almost like he's dead with his eyes open.
Mm-hmm.
And what was the third suggestion, Barbara?
And the other one was birth injury.
Birth injuries. Well, definitely we're not going to make that a cartoon. Birth injuries. Let's pick illustrations. That might be a challenge to come up with something that is more indicative of a birth injury. I don't know what it's going to create, but it's interesting to try it. Well, that baby's got what looks like some bruises on its face and a worried looking mother. The baby's color is not great. The baby looks potentially ill. Sad looking baby. Those are the choices. Now, if you wanted to use this design, for example, let's see what our choices are. You can download the image, you could delete it, you could edit it. If you wanted to edit it, you might be able to then pull it into Canva using the text feature and add a heading. A little hard to do on this image because there's so much drawing that's going on. So what I do when I modify Canva is I add a shape to the bottom. And then on there, I can add a heading, change the color of the font. Let's make that the same color as her clothing. Doesn't show up real well. Let's make that white. For example, you can add text. And if you want this little box to be not quite as dominant, you can click on the transparency and it will make the box more transparent as you pull it to the left so that it's not quite as a solid brown. And that you can download as a PNG file and use it on a LinkedIn post. We have just a couple of minutes for questions before we need to wrap up.
Pat, how about if people put their questions in the chat, and while they're doing it, you and I can talk about future plans so everybody can consider future dates of our education programs.
Okay. We do have our next plan coming up. Our next program is going to be in December, and we're going to focus on doing some planning for 2025. In showing you how you can use the social media image creation and content creation adjuncts in using AI. The next logical step is, what are the topics that you want to cover? How can you plan those out for the year so that you know where you're headed? And you can use these tools to increase your productivity, create content that you can edit. We'll talk about establishing some marketing goals and business development goals. That'll be a program set up for, I believe that is December 18th at noontime Eastern. And then on January 7th, Barbara will be sharing some tips on resumes. Do you want to speak about that, Barbara?
Yes, absolutely. We encourage all of you to bring your resumes with you for this program. We want to jumpstart your new year in polishing your curriculum vitae. So please have that handy. So when we're making suggestions to you, you can incorporate those at the time on your curriculum vitae. And certainly we encourage questions at that time. In addition, we have a future LNC Success Conference that's coming up. And Pat and I have been doing this. This will be our 11th conference. So we are so excited about this. And we have a great group of speakers. We encourage you to visit our website, lnc.tips/February 2025 virtual. And you will hear from a variety of speakers during our conference that includes attorneys, legal nurses, business individuals, and we have a variety of topics, including proven strategies for landing your first attorney client. You will also hear a clinical presentation having to do with a couple medical malpractice cases, of which one of them is something that Pat has successfully worked on. Another is one that I worked on, and it's called Never Snowed: Risks and Rewards of PCA Usage. And I'll be presenting that with an attorney. We also have risk managers presenting a program on preventing medical errors, risk management, and quality assurance strategies to mitigate litigation. And the program that Pat is going to be teaching, circling back to that, with her attorney client is called When Lives Are Ruined in Minutes. There will be a marketing hands-on workshop that will be included in this 3-day conference. The conference agenda, again, is at lnc.tips/February 2025 virtual. And if you sign up now, you'll get an early bird rate. And if you're perhaps working on any of those days, this will be a recorded conference and you'll be able to watch it at your leisure. So please register now. Yes, Marianne Cosby wanted to know the date for the curriculum vitae training. It's actually Tuesday, January 7, and it will be at 12 noon. So we look forward to seeing you next time, which is December 18 at 12 noon for our exciting program on planning ahead for your 2025 and what you need for your business success, followed by January 7, polish your CV. And once again, the link for our conference, our 11th virtual conference, is lnc.tips/February 2025 virtual. Please take a look. Dorothy actually put it into the chat.
Jane had asked, can you make your images private on a ideogram? Yes, if you pay them, but no, if you use the free version. In Canva, however, I don't think that anyone sees your images in Canva. That's not a public platform, the same way that ideogram is public. I personally, having discovered Canva's Dream Lab, just a couple weeks ago, I find it fast and easier to use. So ideogram was something that I discovered about a year ago. I often find it very amusing to see some of those images, but from a practical standpoint, Canva is a much more versatile platform. As long as you're not putting words in your images. And you can always do that after the fact by editing the image.
Pat, there is one question here. Chris Mew, could you repeat? We own
Yes.
the copyright. What were you referring to? Was it ChatGPT? I missed that.
You own the copyright for any images that you create or any content that you put on ChatGPT that you get from ChatGPT, and then you edit that material. There are settings within ChatGPT and Perplexity that you can turn on that no one else can see what you have obtained from those platforms. You have to consciously go locate those settings and turn them on. Otherwise, if you, for example, and this has been an issue for some people who are authors, they upload their books into ChatGPT, and then other people are using their intellectual property to create their own books. That has resulted in some lawsuits against ChatGPT. It is possible to protect it. Would you adjust your settings accordingly? And you can always ask ChatGPT, how do I keep my information private? And it'll tell you. Wonderful. I'm glad that that clarified things for you, Chris. Thank you so much for being with us for this hour. We will be back again next month with a new topic as we talk about planning your 2025. You'll be receiving reminders and emails about that. And because you are here in person, we will be mailing out to you the bonus handout that includes the prompts. It includes links to learning more about these platforms and what you use each platform for. I will be putting the link to this recording on that handout and then giving it to Dorothy so that she can share it with you. Thank you so much.
We look forward to seeing you next time.
Coming up next, you're going to hear from an emergency department physician, Jeff Willis, who left practice about a year ago to work full-time with medical malpractice attorneys. Jeff has the unusual background of being a physician for 20 plus years in the emergency department and then finding himself drawn to the medical legal world. He will share with you in this podcast how his perspective of attorneys changed from the time he was a clinician to the time that he began working with them. He'll share with you some of the patterns that he sees and the most common and often surprising reasons why claims occur. His perspective is invaluable in another way, in the sense that he's built a very large practice in a short period, and he shares with you in this upcoming podcast how that happened. What is the secret of his success? You will get a lot out of his program. I encourage you to come back next week or click on to the next podcast and listen to Jeff Willis share his perspective as a full-time clinician working with attorneys on a full-time basis. Come back next week to hear a unique perspective from a physician who is working with attorneys in pre-litigation cases, as well as finding expert witnesses for them. You're going to get a lot of tips from Jeff's podcast. Thank you for being part of our audience of Legal Nurse Podcast. I hope that you enjoyed this session and you got some great tips from it. I would love to see you at our February 2025 LNC Success Online Conference. That will be our 11th conference, taking place February 27, 28, and March 1. You can get your ticket by going to lnc.tips/February 2025 virtual. I'd love to see you there.